Hello, friends, and welcome to our regular program here at Empty Cloud Monastery, offered to you live from New Jersey, West Orange, New Jersey. And we're here for our regular program of Monk Chat, where you're welcome to ask questions about Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And again, we're joined with Honorable Ayasobana. Yes. Thank you, Aya. And so please feel free to leave questions in the chat live, and if you have questions related to meditation, related to monasticism or Buddhism, then we'll try our best to provide some kind of answer. And we will go until there are questions or until the clock strikes 9. Okay, should we begin now?
Yes. Namo tassa
Bhagavato
arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Tam dhammam sangham saranam gacchami. I think the first question is from HPD.
Yes, okay. So HPD has a question, which we may not have an answer for. Says that their wife is Burmese and chants a chant, maybe Tan Bot Dai or Tan Bot Day, that you've been trying to find the link to, and you understand maybe what chant it is. Your wife says it's the qualities of the Buddha. Is that correct?
So we're not, neither of us are very conversant with Burmese tradition or pronunciation. I think Bodhai must be a Buddha, a Buddhaya. And the qualities of the Buddha in the Pali language could be discovered by searching for the verse that begins Iti Piso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho Vinja Charana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Satta Deva Manusanam Buddho Bhagavati. That's the traditional list of the qualities of the Buddha, which is by far possibly the most popular chant in Buddhist countries, at least in my experience with Sri Lankan culture. It's definitely something that's very much loved and taught by, recited a lot by monastics and lay people alike. It means, such indeed is the exalted one, is perfectly enlightened, wise, perfect in conduct and understanding, the well-gone one, the teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and exalted. Did I leave some qualities out?
Knower of the world, maybe?
Knower of the world, yeah, Lokavidu.
Supreme trainer.
The one who knows the world. It's a part of the, when we recite the qualities of the triple gem, they recite the Buddha, and then they recite the Dhamma and the Sangha all together. But the qualities of the Buddha by itself is definitely very popular and very well known. And can we post a comment and say ETP so and tell them to look that up?
Yeah, we could write the beginning of the chant that Ayasobana has just mentioned. Let's see if can I go through it. Looks like
There it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting a little bit of an obstruction. Oh, here, okay, it did go
You
through.
can go through.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to say more on this? Or?
There was a talk before about how to gladden the mind or how to bring joy into our practice, which makes a lot of other things go more easily. And one of the definite contemplations that can be done to bring gladness, if you have confidence in the Buddha, or if you find it really awesome and impressive what the Buddha accomplished and the effectiveness of the teachings and things about his life story, then this contemplation is very beneficial. It's one of the protective chants. So at a time of trouble or difficulty, reciting this can help to calm the mind, settle the mind, and bring up gladness. So it's a wonderful, wonderful contemplation. You could probably spend the whole hour going in detail through what you meant by each one of those qualities, but I think we won't do that tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure it might take up some time. Good. Okay, Rebecca, hope you're doing well. Has a question. Says, does the Mahayana concept of Buddha nature have any correlation to the early Buddhist texts? How is it similar or different to what is taught according to the Pali Canon?
So, in the I'm quite sure that it's a subsequent evolution of thought that brought out the idea that every sentient being has a potential for enlightenment, for awakening, and that spark is something like a Buddha nature. So that's a kind of a potentiality. I'm not a Mahayana practitioner, so I'm not very well versed in how Buddha nature is practiced. We might ask Venerable Shinwei, she would like to say a couple of words about the significance of the Buddha nature in the practice. In the Theravada, there's a caution about thinking that any individual has got a fixed essence and essential quality, which is permanent quality that they hold in an unchanging way. So because of impermanence and because of non-self, then if you think that one person is a devil and another person is a saint, and that they're always permanently and forever going to be that way, it's our understanding that everything in samsara is subject to impermanence, subject to change, and is continuously changing because of causes and conditions. So even some of the, I think there's one of the arahants who said that in a previous lifetime they were Mara, who was the evil one. So they used to be the evil one, and then they became a fully enlightened arahant. The Buddha nature would not be part of this continuously changing flux of changeability that's happening in samsara, because the Buddha has transcended and gone beyond the world of life and rebirth. And so then the Buddhahood is a sort of an eternal truth in that way, which is beyond that flux of samsara. I could only say that there is the possibility for a sentient being to have a chance eventually to encounter the Dhamma, to hear the Dhamma, and to come to awakening. And if even if the Dhamma dies out completely, there's a chance that another future Buddha will come to be, who will discover the truth, discover the Dhamma, and then open the way for all beings to have that possibility. So it's something which is a potential possibility within the realm of what can be done. In that sense, you could say that there is a Buddha nature. Do you have anything more to add about that?
Yeah, it's very precisely. It's just, I think, from a point of view, like the practice of Theravada is actually covered in Mahayanas.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a core value of the whole practice too.
Okay. Venerable Chenhui was just commenting. She's from a Chinese Chan background and commenting that the Theravada is included in as a core aspect of the Mahayana practice as well. Greetings to Rick Thorne. Thank you for your metta from Indiana.
Rick is a regular viewer.
Greetings to Kyle's our friend, Maria, another Maria, Louisa. Here's a question from Rick. Venerables, can you talk about ways to cultivate faith and energy when going through difficult times? One aspect of difficult times is that until we obtain the goal, while we were still here wandering in samsara, then there are many ups and downs, many things which are changeable. And even a person who's done a lot of meditation and a lot of practice, still, if they're subject to too much change or too much pain, too much loss, then they could be temporarily thrown off balance and thrown into a stressful, grievous kind of reaction. I think we might notice when we've been practicing meditation and listening to the Dhamma for some time that a certain amount of stressful situations, we can hold them just fine with equanimity. To the whatever extent that we've gained some wisdom in this practice. So then if somebody insults you, or if a person loses their job, or something else happens that's unpleasant and dislikable, if they're have a health crisis, something like that, they might be able to say, this is arising because of causes and conditions. All things are impermanent. It's not personal. You might even say, as I learned, oh, the Buddha is right. There is dukkha. And so it's possible to some extent or to a great extent that one can sustain their equanimity even when confronted by hard times. our aspiration is that the equanimity, the unshakable quality would be so strong that we could withstand anything, even up to the point of our own death. So there's the story of Ajahn, the Arhat Bhikkhu Sona, who was had a luxurious background. He was very tender, but after he ordained, he wanted to go to a foreign land to teach about the Buddha. And the Buddha said, oh, the people there are very rough, very rude, they might insult you. And he said, well, if they insult me, I'll be glad and happy that I was able to stay calm. And I said, well, what if they throw stones at you? And he said, well, I'll think, if they throw stones at me, at least they didn't injure me. And he said, well, what if they injured you? I said, well, if they injure me, I'll think, even they didn't kill me. And so I'll be glad that they didn't kill me. And he said, well, what if they kill you? And I said, well, if they kill me, then I'll be glad and happy because I know that I didn't become angry, that I was able to go through all of that without becoming angry, and that I kept the purity of the mind in that way. So this is really what we're aspiring to. It's not only faith and energy, but it's the totality of our entire practice, developing calm and insight, cultivating loving kindness, cultivating morality, cultivating the investigation of dhammas, cultivating insight into impermanence and non-self, doing the reflection in advance before you lose what you love, making this a reflection. This is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself, realizing in advance that all things are impermanent, that beings, whatever we have that we love, is subject to impermanence, so that we're prepared ahead of time to know that when we encounter a loss, the mind is prepared for that. Nevertheless, if it comes to a time when psychologically we're kind of overwhelmed by stress, I think this is what Rick might mean by difficult times, is when the stress is so much that our practice is somewhat swamped, and we've lost the stability of the practice or the ability to easily gladden the mind, the ability to easily develop the calm and to have the refreshing, healing experience of good meditation. But instead really beset by difficult times. Reflecting about one's good deeds, one's own sila, one's own generosity, is something that can help us to brighten the mind a bit. Reflecting about the qualities of the Buddha or faith in these teachings can help. In particular, the Buddha taught us that there is dukkha, and that the cause of dukkha is craving. So if you can step back from the experience sufficiently to reflect that this painful thing I'm going through there is something that I'm clinging to, something that I'm craving. And it's because of that craving that I've been thrown off balance and that I'm suffering. Each individual may have some different weaknesses. I know for myself, my weakness is I can't stand to be unfairly accused of something. It's something, must be something in my childhood or my karmic stream or something that's the one thing that makes me lose my cool. But I know that praise and blame is been taught by the Buddha as one of the worldly winds, and that there's something like a still in me that I want to be respected, and that it's because of that desire for respect or a certain status or a certain position or something like that that causes me to become so like I'm mentally unbalanced by an insult. And so by doing that reflection, the thing that came up that was painful, it's like, this is your learning opportunity. This is where you have the cutting edge of your practice. As long as things were going along smooth and easy, you think you're developing some wisdom or developing some stability, some insight, some serenity, and that maybe you've overcome dukkha, but then something comes along that overturns the mind. And this is it's like if a scientist has got a theory and the theory is explaining everything, then that's happy. But then along comes some anomaly, some data that is not explained by the theory. And then the scientist says, oh, here's an anomaly. Now I have to research this to really use deep science and deep creative process to discover what would explain this anomaly, which is not fitting to what I had before. And so just the same way, like you've got a certain amount of wisdom that gets you through life, but then some difficulty comes along and overthrows you. And then that's the time to say, okay, I had that much wisdom, but I've got to go deeper. I've got to, with a great courage, investigate and look within, be really honest and say, what is it? There's something I'm still clinging to. And then let's say, am I able to let go of clinging to that? And if I do that, if I can let go of that, can I find that the stress about the situation is relieved? And so I'd say perhaps that falls under Rick's suggestion of energy, that you should see that pain is a learning opportunity, and you should arouse the energy of investigation to try to understand it. This is what the Buddha said, dukkha should be fully understood. And so to understand it, you've got to not be in denial. You've got to have courage. You've got to look within. You may have something to add to this advice.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
Okay. Other meditation objects do I recommend other than the breath? This is Kim's question. And greetings, Joseph. Happy to see you. There are many meditation subjects. Even if you looked at the Satipatthana Sutta, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, it gives a lot of different reflections, and perhaps different teachers would find different aspects of that sutta to be the most meaningful. For me, the by far, in addition to the breath, the most beneficial meditations are doing the boundless loving kindness and the other Brahma Viharas, radiating loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity in all directions, above and below, without any limits. That's a necessary meditation. So that's one. And then the second meditation that is tremendously powerful and beneficial is the meditation on the elements. That meditation is especially wonderful for people who like the outdoors. If you like to sit outside in a natural environment, looking at the qualities of the earth element, the water element, the air element, and the fire element inside one's own body, and then outside in nature, going on in and out, back and forth, with that idea that the element is not me, not mine, not myself. So the earthiness, I know, like the fingernails and the teeth and the skull are like extremely hard, like a rock, and also the flesh, like the muscles and so forth, are more like soil, which is still earthy, but it's a bit more softer. So the earthiness of the earth element in the body is exactly the same as the earthiness of the earth in the world, and it's not personal. It's a really great meditation. So those are the other two favorite meditations of mine. Now I'm going to ask you to see if you can have a different favorite meditation.
Well, what comes to mind, I guess, for me in terms of this question, and that I find helpful for my own practice is the word, what other meditation objects? And what comes to mind for me is I don't recommend thinking about meditation in terms of objects for myself. I'm sure for other people it helps to think about it like that. But personally, when the common word meditation object, for me, it, I don't think it is. I don't find it helpful in terms of developing my meditation, because if you think about a meditation object, it's almost like this thing that you are focusing on, which is not really part of you. And I feel like when we're talking about, for example, meditation on the elements, or loving kindness meditation, and also breath meditation, the breath is not an object. It's part of you. It's part of our life. It's not an object. It's a part of our experience. And I feel like when I think about an object, the kind of image that comes to mind is it's something that's external to you. But when you watch the breath, it affects it. It's not some kind of external and personal object. It's related to our body, our mind, our emotions. And so for me, it helps to think about it. Ayasobana said meditation subjects. And I think that's a better phrase, because meditation subjects, it's more like, okay, these are kind of topics, these are subjects that we are cultivating. They're not objects that we're kind of staring at, that are just some kind of impersonal external thing. So for me personally, that's helpful. And I know for other people, they might say, I don't know what you're talking about, Vada, because meditation objects is what all my teachers say, and that works perfectly fine for you, and that's great. And I wouldn't say it's totally wrong, but for me, I don't find a place where the Buddha says objects in the suttas. The Buddha usually, like in the Satipatthana Sutta that Ayasobana mentioned, the Buddha talks about. He says that you, for example, contemplate your body. You observe your body with ardency, with mindfulness, with comprehension. And if you look at, for example, his instructions on mindfulness of breathing, his recommendations for mindfulness of breathing, the Buddha there is talking about how one is supposed to be calming the body, calming the breath, relating to the breath with an emotional component, right? So meditation is emotional. It should be an emotional experience. And I think if we think about meditation as a kind of cold science observing objects, I don't think that this is what the Buddha was talking about to this exactly. Of course, there is a component of that we do have to sometimes investigate and see what is going on, right? And try to investigate with that attitude of open-mindedness, of what we might call something closer to objectivity, right? But overall, I do think that the concept of meditation objects, for myself, I do think it's a little bit problematic, because when I think about meditation, what I find really helpful is what qualities are missing. So, like, how am I relating to my experience, right? So, for example, for me, just being aware in the present moment, there's many ways you can do that. I can do it in a way where I'm tense, or I'm expecting it to be a certain way, or I want to get something out of it, or I can do it with a sense of observation. I can do it with a sense of loving kind, developing a sense of gentleness towards the present moment. I can do it with a sense of drawing up some type of recollection or emotion or inspiring theme, like the qualities of the Buddha and so on. And to me, it's investigating what qualities am I developing. Am I developing desire? Am I developing agitation? Am I developing aversion? Am I developing remorse and restlessness? Am I developing these qualities, these hindrances? Or am I developing more mindfulness? Am I developing more kind of peace inside? So for me, it's helpful to think of meditation like, what qualities should I develop, and what kind of themes and aspects and subjects will help me develop those qualities to help my mind become more whole, become more together. And so similarly, I think for me at least, sometimes the word concentration gets a lot of flack in Buddhism. And I wouldn't say that that's wrong for everybody, but I think when we're trying to develop a mind that's more unified, it's, we're trying to make ourselves whole. We're not trying to force our mind to be kind of tight on an object. To me, that's just not really the path of meditation. It's the path of force. It's the path of kind of duality and expecting, rather than, how can I make myself a more whole person? So like in any kind of scenario, can I make myself more whole? And to me, meditation is supposed to help us do that. So sometimes it helps us to contemplate the Brahma-viharas, or it helps us to contemplate the qualities that inspire us. And can we make ourselves more whole? Can we make our person more united? Can we make our person more together, rather than maybe conflicted or scattered, or having these tensions within us? So for me, that's helpful. And so when I look at meditation, I usually look at it like that. Like, at this time, what qualities are in my mind? And at this time, what qualities can I start to develop? And usually it's a matter of my attitude. So like, for example, maybe I notice, right now, my breath seems to be naturally, it helps me. It makes my mind more peaceful, calm, to just be with the breath. Or then maybe I notice, actually right now, if I try to do that, my mind will become more tense. My breath will become tense. So what qualities will be helpful? Maybe it's being patient, or maybe it's maybe it's recollecting something. Maybe it's developing kindness. So it's kind of looking like, what qualities are in my mind right now, and what kinds of themes and topics will help to unify and make myself more at peace and more whole with my life and my experience. So for me, that's helpful, and that's how I personally try to approach meditation, at least. And so that's my rant on the word objects, meditation objects.
I'll say, in terms of meditation procedures, do you have any among those that are suggested in the text? Do you have anything in particular besides, in addition to the breath or the anapanasati?
Let's see. Well, I do find the elements really helpful, Laya. For me, I found sometimes if my mind is getting tight, then contemplating the sky, I found it, because it's so vast, then it's the space element. I take it as a space element of it's any kind of small sort of ego, type of whatever it might be, agitation or desire or whatever. Then it's like, but the sky is so impartial. It's so I guess it's similar to the Buddha's teaching the contemplation of the elements in terms of equanimity, like be like the earth. And that the earth isn't bothered when it gets trash thrown on it, so for me, the elements, I like that quality of equanimity that you mentioned. So that's one that I find helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Here's from Joseph. Warmest wishes, Venerables. I learned scientific research proves that the receiver of an act of kindness gains a noticeable increase in serotonin, and their immune system is boosted. Okay. Is there
Let's see if there might be something further.
more? Okay.
Yeah, it looks like this might be.
The same increase in serotonin was also observed in the giver of the act of kindness. And this is wonderful, the observer of the act of kindness as well. Yes. Meaning, when we read the story of Muchalinda and the Naga king who sheltered the Buddha with his body from the stormy weather for 7 days, while he was in the deep bliss of meditation, we actively benefit. Yes. How wonderful. Do you have any personal stories of witnessing an act of kindness that warms and brightens your heart? Also, is there any connection between the triple relation of the act of kindness that the giver, receiver, observer with the epithets of the Buddha? Those are the
For the Ratana Sutta.
yes, he's the best, the bringer of the best, the giver of the best, and the knower of the best. Well, I do know that from also more from science that if you think about something or imagine something, then it's as if you are actually having, if they scan the brain and they see what part of the brain is activated. So like if you think about tennis, then there's something in the brain scan that is going back and forth with the imagined tennis ball. And so it's the same way. I also often like to think when you see an act of kindness that before the person did that act, they thought of doing it. And when they thought of it, then they have a certain kind of happiness while they're just from the idea. And then they might have to do some things to get organized to do the act of kindness. And while they're doing that work, whatever they need to do, then they also will feel happy. And then if when they actually do the deed, do the act, and then it's kind of completed, that's also a moment of happiness. And then later on, afterwards, they can recall and recollect and remember it. And so there's 4 different bits of happiness that are all together in that one gift. I especially love to see the kindness of animals to each other. You know, when the lion protects a baby monkey. In my case, on one occasion, I had a cat, and when the cat was near the end of his life, he had a stroke. He was very sick, and I took him to the vet, and for some reason, they gave him some comfort medicine and let me take him home again. And that night, I had the cat like right next to me while I slept, and the cat was like coming up to me and was purring like so loudly all through the night. And I felt actually that the cat was saying, there, it's okay. And the cat was trying to comfort me and help me to feel better. And that's truly what I felt, is the cat was being compassionate towards me. I mean, the cat was really ready to go, but out of kindness to me, he stayed on for that much longer. So, but it's certainly true that when we observe an act of kindness, it does um, lift the heart and gives inspiration. I'm not quite sure about the connection that Joseph might have in mind about a connection with the epithets of the Buddha.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was thinking of the maybe the giver could be the teacher, that he's the teacher. I'm not sure about receiver, unless you take maybe receiving students or receiving maybe alms food, that the Buddha was a field of merit. So he maybe was happy to think that by receiving gifts that he was, and then maybe observer, you could take that possibly as like the knower of the world that was mentioned, that the Buddha observes the world and he surveyed the world with his Buddha eye. But I don't think anything in particular about that scheme. I know for me, I have that. I wonder if this is, I'm sure it's your experience. I would imagine that on alms round sometimes when people give me that, I can think of basically any food I've received on alms food, on alms round, I think I can remember it. I think I can remember the person and the food. And it's not like I try to remember it, and it's not that I can actively go through maybe one by one, but I think if I tried, I probably could. And I noticed that with other monastics, sometimes I would say like, oh, do you remember that we got this at that time? And they would remember, but the details were so little that it wasn't enough to put together the information. And it was so just like a few seconds of someone coming up and giving you a gift. But when someone puts a bowl of, when someone puts food in my bowl, especially when you're hungry, then, and that they kindly support like that, I know that for me, it's such a joy. And it's such a sense of like, appreciation for the person they're feeding you. I've definitely felt that.
Okay. Maybe enough. Did we miss anybody?
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe.
Maria, Rick, Joseph, Kim, Joseph. Greetings, CTP, blah, blah, blah. Okay, from Scott. Hoping for some life advice here. I've tried a few things with someone who harasses me on occasions. From my colleagues and management, I get just avoid and ignore. Good advice, however, not foolproof. What's experienced as being harassment we know that that person in their own mind has got some kind of reason that they think that it's okay or beneficial for them to treat you in that way. Maybe they feel threatened or in danger or some kind of a competition or some kind of a thing that their chances will be improved by being aggressive, or it could be that they think that you are um, gone the wrong way or going the wrong way, and they're actually trying to help you, but they're doing it in a very rude kind of way. Bhante Gunaratana, my teacher, tells a story about a person who you're by the side of the road and you got a flat tire, and so then somebody pulls over and helps you by repairing the tire, but the entire time that they're doing it, they're scolding you, saying, you stupid person, you should have taken care of your tire, and you shouldn't drive so badly, and if you weren't if you took care of your car properly, you wouldn't have this problem, and so on and so on. So they're it's like it's a mixture. They're doing something nice and they're talking very rough. And so it could be that the person who's harassing, if you look closely, you could find that it's not like 100% harassment, that there's like somewhere in there, you could find that they've got some good intentions. And so then by, you have a choice, like what you're going to focus on. Are you going to focus on that person is always harassing me? Or could you focus in a different way and say, oh, that person must be under a lot of stress that they're acting like that? Or, oh, that person is doing their best, but they're still harassing me? Or something like that. So just to be careful that having a strong experience like that, it triggers the emotional reaction, and it triggers a kind of an inner proliferation of the mind, and the mind spins out a story of what's going on, and if you allow that story to remain lodged in the mind, then it's stressful to you, and it also is perhaps even conditioning you to be responding in a way that could be like not so skillful. So you've got to be really intentional about reflecting when you're away from that situation on how you are choosing to hold it. If it's possible to extend the thought of compassion for that person, if it's necessary to protect yourself from someone who's harming, whether it be by naming what's going on, or whether it be by taking yourself away from that situation, that it's certainly okay to do that for your own self-care, but it will be better in the long run for you if there can at some point come to be some reconciliation and forgiveness, so that the distress that you feel about that can be resolved and released. Sometimes these things take a long time to do, and sometimes there are situations that are not beneficial, that are harmful, that create a trigger negative reactions, and you've got to take yourself away and disengage from those situations. And it's okay to do that. You can do that. You have the right to do that. But if you would also couple that with a kind of like a self-care to try to substitute something wholesome instead of letting those that don't let your own mind be infected with the poison of that aggression or that aversion, that angry behavior, what it is. So to just like the body processes any kind of infection and kind of like isolates it and puts it out in the form of pus or something like that. that which is unhealthy, harmful, and dangerous in the body gets expelled from the body through the process. So you can just find a way, discover a way to throw away the poison that person has given you.
Okay. Okay.
The research on kindness gives deeper appreciation for the teachings of the Morning Sutta, Anguttara 3155. With its blessing, may you and all your relatives be happy and healthy. Yes, in terms of how the practice of loving kindness works.
Does that follow up the next slide?
Seeing blessings as an act of kindness. Your favorite blessings? May you have the cause for Nibbana. Nibbana Pachayo Hotu. That's my favorite blessing. There's another one that I really like, and that's the one that was given by Bhante Gunaratana. It's his own version of the metta. This is for each person, yourself, your parents, and other kinds of individuals. In the case, may I be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always meet with success. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable problems, failures, and difficulties of life. And what's beautiful about that is, even though you wish that nobody will have, that others will never experience a problem, however, despite your wish, they will eventually encounter problems and failures. And so, giving the wish that they will have the wherewithal to be able to skillfully meet and overcome those challenges, but acknowledging the difficulties that will be encountered. So that's both a metta, wishing them well, and compassion, wishing for them to overcome the challenges.
Yeah, I like that blessing as well. And Nibbana Pachayo too. Yeah. And I also like Bhante Sumita, is a Sri Lankan monk.
Yes, what's that?
He has his own blessing that he gives in English. I assume that he made it. It's probably maybe some of the Bhante Ji, but I can't do it justice. But some of the people who have met him, but he at the meal usually he'll give a blessing. May you be happy, peaceful wherever you are. May no harm come to you by fire, water, air, and all the devas, brahmas. And he kind of goes on for like 5 minutes, giving this blessing of well-wishing. But it's the same every time. But it's very sweet. Yeah.
There's some monk that I heard about from Ayatollah who had a practice that whenever he spoke to somebody, he would always bless them. Each and every person, each and every occasion of speaking to them, he would give them a blessing. Every time he answered an email, he would send a blessing. Each time he wrote a letter, he would give a blessing. And that practice is a kind of like, creates a consistency or proliferation of blessings, and it becomes really powerful on a cumulative level. So that's another way to do this like consistent acts of kindness. If, according to the game theory, if just 1% of the people in New Jersey would practice consistent acts of kindness, that would be sufficient to create a synergy that would transform the culture of the entire state and to overcome the tendency to society to spiral into negativity. So they say.
I wonder, do you know, is it a Sri Lankan custom? One thing I picked up from Panchasudasa that we do here is whenever people are paying respects, we say Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Is that a Sri Lankan custom? Or?
Yeah, that can be.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like Scott may have had some other.
The mind goes dark when this person's comments come out, proliferating on Maha-related themes. I can endure and apply antidotes with certain conditions I have. However, I'm concerned when I don't have did I miss it?
Yeah, just a little bit, I think, over here.
I'm sorry, that's my fingers are having a problem with making the screen move.
If you look, you can just down a little bit. There's one more. Yeah, right here. Have these conditions.
When I don't have these conditions, thank you. So this the mind going dark. That's because it's too much. We say this with children. When they experience severe difficulties and it's too much, they don't yet have the maturity or the wisdom to handle it, and the whole experience of the memory can be suppressed. It's not. It's good to find a safe place, a safe space to let the painful and difficult experiences be brought to light and to be known, to be held with compassion. It's not a question of just like going over them again and again as a kind of a self-punishment, but instead with compassion to be able to know and to release, and even to know, oh, this is painful, and then release it. Whether that means going on a retreat, which is like a super safe place, or should be a completely safe space to allow things to come up, or some kind of a therapeutic or a healing environment, or talking with a friend who's somebody who's really a completely safe individual that you can talk things over with. These things, this is just common sense, but it's good to try to let these come out, not to simply bury them. People have suffered from abuse for a long time. It is possible that even a person who's subject to grave injustice and really serious abuse can overcome and conquer that. And a person who does overcome a severe situation, the way I heard it described to me was that they had to get rid of their own inner hatred, because if they, when the abuse or the injustice is so severe, if they responded with a hatred that was proportionate to the cruelty that they've received, then they would be driven to the madhouse. And so they have to find out how to overcome hatred. And when they're able to overcome that hatred, they become a saint. They become a spiritually mature and powerful person who's both able to withstand abuse or injustice without being traumatized internally. And they become also a kind of person who's got a great deal to give back to the world. Talk about giving a gift, doing an act of kindness. Then the next person in this world who you meet, who's somebody who's been victimized, somebody who's suffering from abuse or injustice. And if you're able to look at them and say, I understand what you're going through because I've been there. And I know it's possible to overcome that, not to become poisoned by that, not to become internally like emotionally crippled or traumatized by that, and not to become overwhelmed with giving hatred for hatred. It's really important work. This is what you have to do. You have to find a way to learn how to protect your mind and to not let anger take hold when receiving those kind of treatment. I heard that about I met a lady who'd frequently visited Africa, and the country that she visited was there was a lot of civil war and a lot of political turmoil, a tremendous amount of injustice, and compounded by the racism and the vestiges of the colonial inheritance of that country that had left a deep imprint of sickness within that society and that culture. And she said that these are not Buddhists at all, but she said she'd met a lot of saints in Africa, and meaning people who had overcome anger when being subjected to the most severe provocation. And so I know for sure that it's possible to do that. Okay, learn how to use the computer. I would like to get into the practice of memorizing important sutras, but it seems challenging how to approach this. Do you have any suggestions or skillful ways to begin practicing this? To begin practicing this, I've also read that certain karmic conditions may prevent this practice. If you would elaborate more on this as well. I think the karmic condition that prevents memorizing is being born in the 21st century, when people are so glued to these props that we have for the brain and the memory. We don't even have to know how to travel from one destination to another, because we just follow the GPS. But memorizing is really valuable. It's really precious, It means that for me, I experienced two different kinds of benefits. The chanting that we do every day is something that's memorized, or the few important chants that are part of our daily puja are the ones that can tend to be memorized. And when it's memorized, the words are actually, in a certain way, coming up from on an automatic basis, just the same way that after you've learned how to walk, you can walk automatically and you don't have to think about step-by-step lifting, placing like that. You just walk. And so then when one is chanting a sutta that's been memorized, it sort of is coming up automatically. And it's as if something in your memory is giving you a Dhamma talk, and you're able to sit and enjoy listening to this Dhamma talk that is being given to you out of this memory of something being chanted. So that's the one great advantage. Also, when you have it in your memory, it's always with you. It's available when you're sitting, walking, standing, going on an errand, driving. It's always available, can be brought up and reflected on. And then another interesting thing is that as a prompt for mindfulness, if it so happens that, say on some morning when we come in for the morning chanting, I don't know if you've experienced this, but if your mind is distracted, if you're worrying about your, some problem, or if you're affected by some emotion, you could find that the memory falls apart and you have frequent slips and make mistakes on the chanting. And that's a way of, another way of getting some feedback loop to tell you, say, oh, where's my mindfulness? And to try to bring it back and return to being like a fully present and like a one-pointed being present for that chanting experience. So chanting repeatedly, chanting out loud is very good. For me, if you're chanting in your own language, reflecting on the meaning, and if you're chanting something in the Pali language, making sure that you've looked it up or learned enough that you fully know the meaning. So it's not just empty syllables, but you're chanting with the meaning. And then if you are in danger of getting lost in your memorization because of knowing the meaning, you can remember the meaning of what comes next. For memorizing something in Pali, I'm interested in both Pali and English, and I've got the book with both sides. So after having it like mostly memorized or 50% memorized or something, I will look at the English side while reciting the Pali, and by seeing that helps me to put the meaning and the words together, and also gives a tip about what verse is like the next verse coming up, or else I would look at the Pali and recite the English, or else I'll put my hand over the text so that I can only see the first word of the line, and then see if I get the first word, if that helps me remember the rest of the verse. So I suppose these days people use cue cards. You can get a software for that. Teach yourself that way, but repeating very frequent daily repetition of the sutras is by far the easiest way for memorizing. And even if you have a group that you're chanting with, or if you're able to listen to a recording, chant along with the recording. That's helps a lot with memorizing. Reciting something like once a week or once a month doesn't really do the job for me. I don't know about you. Do you have tips about memorizing?
Definitely, I think once a week or once a month would be too little.
Yeah.
Tips for memorizing. What could I maybe add? I think definitely repeating the chants over and over again and contemplating them to build up a relationship with the meaning, as you're mentioning, I think can be really helpful.
Mhm.
So that then it kind of there's that sense of connection to the chant that you're doing. I think that definitely helps. And for me, I mean, what I do, I don't know, maybe this is obvious, but usually I'll read and then I'll repeat and then just try to repeat without looking at what I've just read. And sometimes what I'll do is many times over, if I'm using, looking at the text that I'm memorizing, then I might, even if I know it, recite it with the words. I should say recite it with the text, so that I'm getting double. So that part of what I'm doing is listening to what I'm saying. So I try to hear maybe a little bit the words and also see. So kind of getting that different input of visual and auditory and also speaking. So sometimes I find it helpful to reinforce by reciting with the text, but almost as if it was from memory, or reciting following along, but kind of trying to do it in this way where it's kind of combined. And sometimes that can be helpful. And
Do you know the method forwards and backwards?
I've heard of,
Say iti.
and then I would say
You say iti.
iti.
Iti piso.
So
You say just repeat after me.
Okay.
Iti.
Iti.
ETP.
ETP.
PET.
PET.
ETP so.
ETP so.
So PET.
So PET. Yeah.
I like that.
It's like I think the Brahmins do that with the Vedas.
It's the traditional way of memorizing.
It would take a while if it was like the Mahanidana Sutta.
As far as karmic conditions preventing this practice, karma is karma. It is what it is. But the most important karma is the karma that you do right now, and so you can create your own karmic conditions by the choices that you make now. So if you choose to make the effort, you're creating a different karma. So that's what I would say about that. So thank you from Rick. Thank you from Kim. Kumu. My fingers are not very good with this computer.
It's a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Let's see, is this a question?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Bensi?
No, I was just saying can't watch anymore.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, this is
Can anything be done about the incessant chirping? So there is a fire alarm somewhere and we can't find it. We've been looking for days to find it where.
I think it's in the ceiling.
Did you find it?
I'm pretty sure it's in the ceiling.
It's not this one, is it?
No.
Okay.
I know the general area where it is. I'm pretty sure I know exactly where through the ceiling it is.
So it's behind?
Yeah, we would have to open part of the ceiling to get to it.
It would be good to do that. Or else to give the programs from a different room until we get the chirping solved.
I thought that Cynthia meant the chimney swallows that we have in here, which are also nesting in here. Sometimes they haven't made a sound tonight, but that's chirping. Yeah, it's funny because I didn't even notice the chirping. I've noticed it before, but I wasn't noticing it tonight. I remember one time we went meditating with a monk, and at a certain point he started saying, "Don't be bothered by the lawnmower noises." I hadn't even heard the lawnmower noises because I just wasn't thinking about them. It wasn't that I was, I was hearing other noises, but.
I once complained at the Bhagavata Society somebody gave them a clock that ticked, And so during the meditation, go tick, 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 every second or something. And Bhante Rahula was leading that retreat, and it said, but you've got so many mind moments in between each tick. Why don't you just enjoy the mind moments that are not part of the tick? Does meditation generate merits? Can merits be transferred to those who passed away and also to other? Yeah, I'll show this one.
If you'd like to, I can.
Okay.
There's a lot, it has all kinds of different tricks and. Okay.
Does meditation generate merits? Yes. Can merits be transferred to those who have passed away and also to other living beings? Yes, but not in the same sense as in the traditional Vedic or the Brahmin tradition, where people would make offerings, or else they would pay a priest to recite certain verses to help their deceased relatives to stay in heaven. Instead, as I understand it, the way merits are transferred is if that being who's passed away is in a place where they're able to be aware of your thought, then they will they'll get that serotonin from getting an act of kindness or seeing an act of kindness. They will rejoice and say, oh, my friend is remembering me and sending merits to me. Oh, my relative is remembering me and sending merits to me. And with that, they have mudita, which is sympathetic joy. And sympathetic joy is a merit. And so then when that being is rejoicing about your kindness, that rejoicing is a merit for them. Even if they're in a realm of existence where they don't have very many opportunities to do a good deed, this is one kind of good deed that they can do. There's the image of the hungry ghost who's got the swollen belly from starvation, but the throat is pencil thin because they're not able to accept anything, or they're not able to take food. And so those beings are, it's very difficult for them to do a good karma, to get out of that unhappy state that they're in. But they are able to experience the kindness when you transfer merits to them. This is our Buddhist tradition, and I absolutely believe that I'm not psychically gifted in terms of being able to read people's mind or know what is going on, but I, with like my relatives who are deceased or far away, but I believe that putting that energy of kindness out is actually able to be known and experienced by other beings far beyond what we're aware of. So the person who's right in front of you, if I say, oh, hey, you be well, then, obviously I know because we're looking at each other that blessing has been received. But I believe that the blessings to reverberate far beyond what's immediately in front of us.
Okay.
As an offering of kindness to the Sangha of the Four Quarters and for all observers of this monk chat, present and future, may I request a chanting of blessings and protection for all beings. We could chant the Karpata.
Okay, I'll try my best to.
Do you know that?
I've I haven't memorized it intentionally, but I think I could do it.
Yeah.
Dukkha pataji dukkha, vaya pataji vidaya, sukha pataji sukha, and just baby panna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dukkha pata jani dukkha, maya pata jani maya, sukha pata jani sukha, hontu sambe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Oh, he wants it 3 times?
Well, I think he was requesting 3 times.
Oh.
I assume. I don't know.
Mary? Good evening, Venerable. See you soon, love, Mary.
Mary's our neighbor.
Robert, do you need to change the battery in the smoke detector? Yes, but it's a challenge. A friend asked, to what degree can we will ourselves to happiness, and to what degree are we constrained by external forces? Can one just decide not to suffer, or does it depend on causes and conditions? Dukkha is considered a karmic result. So the result is arising because of the previous conditions. So in that sense, you just got to receive it. On the other hand, the karma that we do right now is setting the creating conditions that will affect what we experience subsequently. So to the extent we're doing skillful, beautiful, wholesome deeds, and doing that again and again, that is creating the conditions that will have their fruition in pleasant experiences. To the extent we lose it and engage in harmful, poisonous and toxic deeds, harmful to our hurting our own self, hurting others, or hurting both. When we do those deeds, then we create the conditions for future dukkha. A lot of times, some of our, what you could call a bad habit, could be like in a subtle kind of way, setting up the conditions for suffering. So if a person is just kind of like selfish, they didn't commit a crime, there's nothing that they're going to go to jail for. It's not even anything that they need to confess, but they're holding a state of mind which is kind of poisonous, and that would mature in future difficulties. So it's very good to really appreciate that you have a lot of power and a lot of choice. Or tell your friend, they have the power, they have the choice, and they have the right to be like intentional about what type of thoughts they keep in their mind. And when a certain thought comes up, if it's poisonous, they can let it go. They don't have to keep hanging on to that same poisonous thought. But if a thought comes up and it's something that's beneficial, then they can choose to welcome that kind of thought and try to nourish and let that kind of thought grow and let it become more sustained and more common. Or even if they are in a neutral state, not thinking about anything at all, they could on purpose bring up some beautiful, good, wholesome, beneficial thought. And we have the power to do that. We're able to do that. And in that sense, we're not willing ourselves to happiness, but we are creating the conditions that will naturally mature into happiness. So you can make effort in many different ways to set up the conditions that are supportive for happiness. It seems sometimes this whole path is like like the Russian doll. I guess you open it up and there's another doll inside. And so because of causation, we never really get the goals that we have by getting them with our willpower. Instead, we're always like using our willpower to create conditions and then relaxing and allowing nature to take its course. So you use willpower at that one level and then relax. And that's how the results come.
Well, it looks like Rick was taking your advice earlier about using things as an opportunity. He says to Robert that it may be a mindfulness chirp.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like we're at the end of our questions.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
That's good, actually. It's a nice mindfulness bell. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And the usual way to close is
Just wishing everyone a good night.
okay. Yeah. Thank you all for your patient listening and your good efforts with this practice. And may you have the conditions for your awakening and for your highest aspirations to be realized.
So.
Please pay respect to the ayats.